Well, we're here on the buzz at the Australasian Wrestling Federation headquarters, awaiting the arrival of the Extreme Championship Wrestling man, Sabu. He's an animal, he's a maniac. It's been recommended that I don't try and talk to him, and he's being accompanied today by his valet, Tammy. So we're just going to have a try and have a quick word to Sabu, which is going to be very frightening. So we'll try it. Hi, are you Sabu?
No,
No, you're not Sabu. Oh, that's good. Is Sabu in there? Could be. We'll just let him get out. He's going to. Hi, are you Tammy? Hi, I'm Jabba. How are you?
How you doing?
Not too bad. Oh, now what's going on, Sabu? First time in the country for you?
Oh, absolutely.
How are you finding it?
Well, I just got here this morning after like 30 hours on a plane, so I haven't seen much yet.
Oh, well, I hope you get to see some of it. Now, the excitement, is there excitement in the limo about being here in Australia to compete? Sab, oh, he's not going to come out. Do you reckon you'd be able to get him out?
He don't talk. He's crazy.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, what's your name?
What's that? Jerry Lawler, the King. How are you?
The King, how are you? Now, do you wrestle as well, Tammy?
If I have to, but it's not my first choice of things to do.
Not your first choice. So what do you kind of look after the guys?
Manager.
You're the manager?
Yes.
Do you guys not get TV in Australia yet? Have you guys just?
I just don't watch it.
You guys haven't invented fire or anything like that? I heard.
Fire? What is that?
I heard like the wheel came out about in like '75 around here.
No, these are imports. We can't get wheels here. Is Sabu going to come out? We'll go in and hide in the doorway. He's not going to come in. Oh, TNT. Oh, Sabu. He's staying in the car. I reckon he's scared of me, personally, but I'm not going to say that too loudly. So we'll just hide in the shop and wait till Sabu comes out. Sabu has just arrived and he's actually in the ring, and I'm just going to defy all odds and actually come into the ring. Oh, this is very large. Sabu. Sabu. How you doing? Are you well? Good flight? Good flight. I think it must have been a good flight. That is Sabu. Enough said.
You know what, Chris? We're in Australia for PsychoticSlam 99, and for everybody that shows up, you're going to see a lot more of me than you ever have.
You know, hold on a second. There is one particular reason that we flew around the world all the way from. In fact, you know, I can't even stand it anymore. I can't stand. So come on, follow me. I got to sit down. Because I can't stand this anymore. I got to sit down right now because I got to think, why in God's name would a superstar like myself fly all the way around the world to Australia for this freaking promotion? Maybe it's because there's a guy that for the last maybe 9 years has been a thorn in my back, who's been driving me up a damn wall. And Sabu, I'm talking to you. I had to come all the way to Australia. I could have found you at the ECW arena, except Paul Heyman doesn't want me back to work yet because he's a bit Looney Tunes. So I had to come all the way to Australia to find you, Sabu. Are you keeping the camera on me? Is the camera on my face? Because I'm not joking around. I'm not fooling around. And Sabu, you may be homicidal, suicidal, sabicidal, fertimicidal. It doesn't matter what you are. I'm going to see you at PsychoticSlam right here in Australia.
And I'll be there, too.
Really, will you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that makes a whole different story.
Okay.
And the Newcastle basketball stadium may never be the same again. Chairs, tables and turnbuckles were all used as weapons. PsychoticSlam 99, well named. A big crowd turned out expecting plenty of noise, special effects and violence, and they weren't disappointed. Newcastle's own AWF superstar, 7-Foot Thunder, took on the Gothic Knight. And while the hometown hero took his share of punishment, he soon took care of business. Then the match promoters say is the best seen in Australia in a decade. TNT taking on, wait for it, the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal, death-defying Sabu. That description became a little more believable when Sabu borrowed a chair in his search for a win, and quite feasible when he employed a table to finish the job. Candido was upstaged by his partner Sonny, and in the end his opponent Marty Jannetty. The organisers of last night's event are hailing it a success and are planning to bring more pro wrestling to the Hunter. Furniture manufacturers will no doubt welcome the business.
Hello wrestling fans, this is TNT for the Australian Wrestling Federation. I'm here with the Dark Side of the Ring Extra, having a look at Season 4 of Dark Side of the Ring, Episode 1, featuring Chris Candido and Tammy Sytch. Very interesting episode, lots going on with this one, a lot of sort of personal memories brought up and connections from when Chris was in Australia for the AWF for PsychoticSlam. We're going to have a look at some of those little moments as well as we go through some of the information from the Dark Side of the Ring, you know. So, basically the episode opened up with Jim Cornette, giving his take on a bunch of things in Chris's career. Chris, a big wrestling fan when he started out, as a young fan. We see a picture of him dressed as Roddy Piper at a school function. We get told of stories of him, as a high school kid, going with a friend and doing some wrestling training and even getting on wrestling shows around New Jersey. So a great passion for pro wrestling, which always shined through in Chris's in-ring work. A consummate professional in the ring. Always had a very good presentation. Always, loved to put on an exciting match. Very technical style, almost like a throwback. Old school style, which really suited him for that sort of Smoky Mountain and NWA style that, that he wrestled for a lot of his career. So, Jim Cornette, gave him his first bigger break where he could kind of get a lot more TV time down in Smoky Mountain and really, make his way. It also introduced Tammy into the wrestling world, which was Chris's girlfriend, which was chronicled as he, grew up, and then their high school sweethearts, and then even Chris ditching his date at the school prom, and then Tammy showing up in a sports car and them going off and having a good time afterwards. So yeah, some interesting stories there about Chris and Tammy. Jim Cornette was always a big supporter of Chris. Knew that he was somebody that had the tools to go on to bigger and bigger things. Mick Foley even quoted that Chris's biggest addiction was perhaps Tammy. Foley worked with Chris in Smoky Mountain when he was Cactus Jack and saw a lot of potential in Candido as well. And yeah, they and he probably saw the dynamic with him and Tammy. As they sort of made their way into the wrestling world and headed for the WWF. Once they got to the WWF, things escalated, obviously, in the big New York spotlight. We heard from some of the contemporaries there, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Lance Storm, and Chris's brother, Johnny Candido. We also, throughout the show, we hear from Chris's mum, her take on it as, her son goes out into the wrestling world to follow his passion and some of the dangers that were involved with that, and parents not really understanding pro wrestling. It's always a difficult line, but, in the end, Chris's mum seemed to be very proud of the life that Chris, lived in his short 33 years. So, that was quite a story there, and some of the stories throughout the episode with Johnny, Chris's brother, growing up hearing about Tammy and Chris, having some big arguments, pulling him out of hotels, saving his life once or twice, potentially with the addiction problems and the like, and just being there right at the end, obviously, it was just heartbreaking to hear, holding Chris's hand as his brother, passes away from complications from, blood clot and pneumonia. So, quite a just a tragic story. But, as we go on, we hear about the rise in the WWE, getting there, perhaps Tammy sort of outshining Chris in a lot of the people's eyes in the office in the WWE. And the dynamic was a little bit different, as Jim Cornette made reference to, where they're kind of presented and people were kind of cheering Tammy. It wasn't, Chris couldn't get that sort of heel heat as much as he could have in the past. So it was kind of, One of those deals where a lot of attention got onto Tammy, and it probably took away from Chris a little bit, which hurt him a little bit to be a breakout star there. So he kind of, I recall him getting into undercard situations. You know, he was pinned by Barry Horowitz, and they actually made a big deal about that with Horowitz wins getting his big deal, and you know, going through the motions there. There's also some, I believe, some political struggles there with Sonny and Chris trying to get in with the clique, and then kind of there's a bit of a falling out. I heard at one stage around the time with Tammy perhaps on a bus getting fed a bad sandwich or something by some of the members of the clique. Some kind of a rib there, and then her freaking out and going home from the tour. So that caused a lot of problems. But as it went, you know, Chris continued on. He ended up with Dr. Tom Pritchard as Skip and Zip, the Body Donners. They got to the tag team titles. Had a big feud with the Godwins at the time, and you know, that was kind of the peak of Chris's WWF career. Winning the tag team titles, which was quite the accomplishment. And then, you know, we heard on the show from Dr. Tom Pritchard, he had his, you know, differences with Sonny as well, like many did, and that didn't help, you know, him enjoying the team of the Body Donners too much. And then, you know, unfortunately, Chris, you know, being the big bump taker, you know, putting his body on the line quite often, coming with a really bad neck injury. I believe it was even a broken neck, and that led to Chris's exit in the WWF. Sonny was riding the wave still. She became an internet sensation, which probably, you know, caused complications in their relationship as well. And then you know, with the inferences of infidelity with Tammy, perhaps with Shawn Michaels and some other wrestlers, you know, after that and along the way. So yeah, a very turbulent ride there. Tammy was known for, you know, getting a lot of attention, obviously, and that may have you know, sort of hurt the relationship at stages and whatnot. But you know, after the run in the WWE or WWF at the time, it was on to ECW. Here, Chris really could, you know, showcase his wrestling skills and you know, get back. He was in the triple threat, Shane Douglas, Bam Bam Bigelow, with Francine. Just a great unit there in ECW, but you know, throughout the ECW time period, the drugs, Tammy ended up, you know, falling out with WWF and being there as well. Yeah, the drug issues became more apparent, and some trouble. You know, Chris ended up getting suspended, I believe, in 1999, and that was around the time when they were going to come out for AWF. So, you know, when that tour was coming about, it was Curtis Hughes mentioned that he'd been in contact with Chris and you know, been talking to him whether I would give the approval to book Chris out here, and I said, yeah, look, let's follow it up, because I'd had some contact through Sabu's agent Phyllis Lee in Florida. She was linked with the Malenkos and the like. And like I had the mind, well, you know, big ECW match in Australia for the first time, you know, Chris Candido versus Sabu with you know, the Sonny from WWF fame at the time, would be a great draw card, along with Marty Jannetty and some other international wrestlers to really bring Australian wrestling up at the time. And you know, the events where PsychoticSlam was a 4-day series of events, and you know, for the most part, the events were quite well received, quite well attended, and some exciting times for, at the time, the Australasian Wrestling Federation. So yeah, AWF audience were treated with 4 big events on the PsychoticSlam tour, and it was quite the time. So anyway, back to the Dark Side of the Ring episode. You know, there was some financial problems in ECW when they got back. Chris was apparently putting a lot of the airfares on his credit cards and stuff like that. We heard from Tammy's, Chris's mother, saying that they perhaps even lost their house because of this, which is terrible. You know, Paul Heyman left a lot of people in the lurch from all the reports and whatnot, and there was a lot of difficulty. You know, Tommy Dreamer and some other people over the internet through the years have told their sides of the stories, and it was a difficult time as the ship started to sink there. There was a TSN report with Tammy that they did on ECW TV that a lot of people didn't think was the best for Tammy. He was talking about just the lifestyle at the time and just some bad things that had happened. So the general consensus that didn't really help Tammy. People, it wasn't so good. So yeah, once that was all done, there was a bit of a stint in WCW. Chris even became the Cruiserweight champion at one stage from memory, and then but it was quite short lived. They went to Puerto Rico, and there was a soundbite of Tammy saying that the Puerto Rican fans, whether you're babyface or heel, they were pouring pee on people or throwing feces, and it was just not a good time there. They didn't really like the surrounds or the accommodations. So, and I think the drug abuse was getting out of hand there. Unfortunately, somas and the like, played a big part in sometimes perhaps their day-to-day activities. So, yeah, not a good situation. And we heard a story about Chris perhaps in a big way hitting rock bottom there, and realizing what happened, and we hear from Johnny on the show, basically saying, having a chat with his brother and saying, well, you got to clean up and turn this around, and Chris seemed pretty determined to do that, which was needed, at that stage, and great to see that, so. He came back. He ended up getting back after working the Indies and building himself back up and getting his name, reputable again. It was coming into TNA, and starting to get momentum, and build, his name back up, and just some good performances again. And then, unfortunately, a big steel cage match, Chris landed awkwardly. A cameraman was kind of in the wrong spot, and he kind of took a bad bump and landed on his shin, or on his foot, and his shin snapped, which would have been incredibly painful, obviously, and just horrendous to deal with. And he ended up, in the hospital and whatnot, and some complications there. And then it had kind of been fixed, and he was set to go to TV to shoot an interview, which he did, and then he had to catch a flight back, and apparently the complications were, he probably shouldn't have been flying, in hindsight, but at the time you want to make the dates and you want to do the business and you get back on track. So in the tragic moment of all life, you're doing these things and you're trying to do your best, but bad things strike, and it was terrible to hear the news that Chris had died of complications from a blood clot. He caught pneumonia, and it had really taken its toll, and it had taken his life. So just horrible news, and just brought back a lot of memories. I remember seeing the report at the time, and just being asked, shell shocked to go, well, man, what a just a sad story, just 33 years old, where, I remember just now when I think back, 33, it was like, that's the prime of your wrestling, really. I remember when I was 32, 33, that's when I got some tryouts for the WWF. I just felt great. I'd been in Japan. That's when you can really just cement yourself and get out there. So, the world was, you know, really opening up for Chris again, and such a tragedy that things didn't work out, you know. So, you know, he died in the hospital with his brother Johnny, hand in hand, and can't imagine what Johnny felt there, you know, and that'll live with him forever, you know, and just a hard story, you know. So, you know, on the show we saw, you know, the likes of Jim Cornette, Lance Storm, obviously Dr. Tom Pritchard, you know, all, you know, brought to tears, you know, because Chris was a genuine dude, and, you know, we obviously had the affection of those gentlemen, and yeah, just a real wrestling tragedy, you know, somebody that had, you know, had such a great passion for wrestling, had great skill, you know, had a lot of personality in the ring and outside the ring, and also, you know, he'd had a bit of a redemption story. You know, he went through the ringer in many ways and kind of come out the other end and was trying to get it all together again, you know, and he was on track. And then, yeah, the you know, shin injury happened, and then, yeah, just the tragedy struck. So it's such a tragedy, you know. You know, Tammy's continuing troubles, you know, were documented, you know, pretty much when Chris passed away. We heard a voice recording of Tammy, you know, obviously being beside herself and not being able to cope too well. And then, you know, unfortunately in recent years she's had a lot of problems with, you know, substance abuse, and currently incarcerated because of the, you know, driving offense and a manslaughter case. So she's still in prison, couldn't be part of the program. So yeah, some you know, sad stuff, you know, and then there was, you know, some other things along the way with Tammy, you know, with adult movies, and just, you know, she had a bad spot with the drug rehabilitation, with the WWF sort of wellness program. They had a sponsored sort of stay, and it didn't quite work out there, so she's had a lot of problems documented. So, you know, as somebody that, you know, I didn't know Tammy well, but, you know, we had a few sort of interactions and whatnot. I just hope she can, you know, come out the other side of this and you know, get her life together, because, you know, drinking and driving is no joke, you know, and she's in a lot of trouble now. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, you know, as the story wound down for the dark side of the ring, you know, it was just, you know, it was probably a real good tribute, the show for Chris. You know, it kind of outlined a lot of his career, and it, you know, told his story and, you know, of possible redemption at the end, and it just got kind of taken away. So it was a bit, you know, tragic, you know. And, you know, he's coming into his prime years, you know, as I mentioned earlier, being 33 years old. So, you know, with Jim Cornette, you know, sort of saying quite, you know, succinctly that, you know, Chris had that kind of throwback style, you know, as a smaller guy too. You know, in later years in the business, it became more acceptable. A lot of smaller guys could move up the card, and also that sort of old school wrestling style probably would have made him a standout. So there was, you know, quite a bit of potential for him to become a bigger star if he could get things together and get a good run on in a few places. So, yeah, potentially the skies were the limits in later years, and it's kind of, you know, makes you wonder what, you know, further impression Chris could have made on the business, and also, you know, where he would be standing, you know, in 2023, you know, had a great mind for the business, was also, you know, somebody that enjoyed helping other wrestlers and training wrestlers, so he may have, you know, even found a place as a trainer, you know, in times like this, or you know, obviously continued as a wrestler for a good period of time as well. So we'll never know, but it seems like you know, a sad situation that obviously that went down and just gone too young. So yeah, many miss you, many cared for you, and always appreciative for anybody that would fly across the world to come to another country and wrestle, especially anyone that comes to wrestle for AWF, and obviously anybody has ever stepped inside the AWF ring, so much thanks and appreciation for, and especially in those early days for people to fly across the globe to be part of it. Well, yeah, it was a special time, and such a sad end, Yeah, so in closing, just want to say, rest in peace, Chris. Legends never die. Great spirit to your family. I've had one or two interactions with Johnny on Twitter. Great episode. Some of the sort of reenactments were fantastic as well. The Darkside of the Ring team did an excellent job, just sort of showing the dichotomy between Chris and Tammy. Some of the scenes were very well animated and whatnot. So and well acted by the actress and the actor that played Tammy and Chris. And it was just a really, really good look back on the career of Chris, and it kind of showed some of Tammy's potential downfalls, and hopefully she can get it together. You don't want to ever see anybody that's given a lot for wrestling, whatever, and things haven't worked out. We hope that maybe she would see something like this episode and look back, and go, hey, maybe there were a few faults. Like everybody, nobody's perfect, but maybe she can mend some burned bridges with people, and also help to live a better life if she doesn't end up incarcerated for a long time, or and hope things can turn out a bit better for her. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'm gonna have some more information about the time with Chris and Tammy in PsychoticSlam for the Australasian Wrestling Federation at the time, for the AWF PsychoticSlam tour in 1999. So stay tuned for that one.